Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you for being here, and thanks for ladies and gentlemen who organized this summit. It's always good to be out of the office of our 9 hours routine, 9 hours plus routine, and come here to discuss and spread our wings, sharing some experiences. And of course, I will start introducing the purpose of this panel. So this session will look at how finance leaders are balancing risk, return, and long-term resilience, while we'll be tapping into a wider range of funding sources, including private equity, sovereign wealth funds, and banking facilities. Of course, it's good also to be exploring the cross-border investments, family office capital, IPO, and multinational companies. So join me welcoming Ignacio Anglada. He's the group CFO of Takif. He's running, actually he lived, it's good that to share this experience as well. So he was raised and lived and worked in 4 different countries, which is Spain, Switzerland, Slovakia, and recently UAE. And Turkey, okay. So, how many countries visited? It should be tourism session. Okay, so he's running a public listed company in Abu Dhabi stock market. He brings extensive experience in board management and corporate governance, and providing strategic finance and guidance for the board. While discussing with Ignacio in preparation of this session, he believes too much in empowering the finance and the colleagues around him, and he believes that without them, he cannot bring transformation for the organizations. Anything to be added, Ignacio?
I think so far very good, Mohammed. Thank you.
Okay. So we move to Amit. So Amit is the group CFO of Al Faris Group. Also, he was born and lived in India, then moved to Kuwait, then to UAE, which also gives an advanced experiences in the culture and different industries. He's a finance leader while over 25 years of experience across private equity, investment management, merger and acquisition, restructuring, which not too many people like it, but it is, and turnaround and corporate finance. He drives strategic financial planning, operation transformation, and capital structuring to support sustainable growth, which is our aim for the next maybe 50 years. Now, for myself, also, I was born in Lebanon, worked in Lebanon for 10 years, then moved to Egypt to take care of North Africa and South Europe for 5 years, and short stop in Malta, and recently in UAE, for a global role. So I have both operational and strategic global roles. And hopefully this session will be enjoying. So anything to be added also, Amit? Sorry, I skipped you. Anything?
No, I mean, you're good. You have mentioned all the things. So I started my career with Tata Steel, which is an industrial company, coal mining, supply chain, and then hardcore steel making, right? And then I moved to Kuwait, first with the FMCG distribution business. Then I joined a private equity. That was a hell of an experience. I was managing portfolio companies in the pharmacy chain, pharmacy retail chain, fashion retails. I was doing shipping and logistics that time as well. Then I moved into another private equity, which was healthcare. I was trying to do an IPO at London Stock Exchange for the healthcare company, which eventually didn't happen. We spent good amount of money, but I had a huge learning, right? And then last 6 years, I have been with a company called Martrade Group, which was again port operations, shipping, logistics. And last 6 months, I've been with Al Faris Group. I will discuss about the Al Faris Group as we go along the subject.
Of course, thank you. So we will start with Ignacio with the first question. So how are CFOs rethinking their capital allocation strategies in light of global uncertainty and shifting market dynamics?
Good. I will not say that I have not prepared the answer, so the answer is prepared. Thank you, Mohammed. I think that I will reply this answer giving a parallelism. Okay, so So a company is a living individual, is a living animal, okay, which evolve, okay, and also we as a finance people evolve in terms of maturity and throughout our careers. So when I will reply this question, I will reply it more or less in the same parallelism. It's an evolution, okay? For me, and is my experience, and I'm sure there are plenty of thousands of more experiences here, okay? So basically this is my experience only, which might be correct or incorrect. For me, the first thing is liquidity and cash. So you can plan your capital allocation, you can plan your long-term plan, your strategy, and so on. But first of all, we need to start with basics, okay? And the company needs to have a proper cash, basics, pillars, fundamentals, and everything is starting with the working capital, okay? When we look the working capital, we ensure that our core operations in the company are solid. And this is where everything starts, okay? The second step, in my opinion, is always, when these basics are solid, is to ensure that you prioritize your decisions, your portfolio of products, your countries that you are expanding. And this is not easy. This is portfolio rationalization, both in your product, both in your geographical strategy. So I'm sure that if you belong to companies in the region, many of the discussions that you are having is, do I stay in UAE? Do I go to other GCC countries? Now Saudi is very popular. Do I go to Saudi? How is the localization strategies of the different countries? Do I invest in Egypt? I skip Egypt. So all of this for me is very important when you plan your sustained growth as a company, okay? The next step is how you fund this. Okay, so perfect. I know I have my core fundamentals of operations basics. I have my portfolio of countries and products defined. How do I decide where I want to invest? And here is where CapEx plays a very important role. Okay, so where I'm going to invest to make the company grow? Is it in people? Is it in technology? I mean, we all talk about artificial intelligence and so on, but do we have the basics fixed? Do I have the proper ERP in place? Okay? How do I ensure that my processes, my structures are going to support this growth? Okay, this at the end is investment, and we need to ensure that all the investment decisions we take have the proper return on investment, the proper NPVs, and the proper analysis. Okay? And then, I know all of this is very basics, but are steps you need to follow. Then you will go into, how do I finance that? What are my needs of cash? What are my needs of capital? And this is where the interesting role of finance, corporate finance, enters into the game. And here, of course, we have a meet with a lot of experience. Do I go to the banks? Do I go to the shareholders? Do I go to private equity? Okay? So there is no solution for everyone. Everyone is different, depending on the size of the company, depending on your shareholders. Do I need to recapitalize? Do I go to the banks and I do a reprofiling? Okay? So I think these are decisions that as a CFOs we need to be, I mean, there was a sentence, I like it before, we need to be in the table, okay? There's no other group or professionals in the company that can be best fitted, like the community we have here today, Mohamed, to support these decisions in the company. So this would be, for me, the recipe, okay, in order to take these decisions.
So we start by cash is king. This is your
Definitely.
recipe.
Okay? And let me use this parallelism. I always tell to my teams, when I was a junior finance guy, I used to control the expenses. Okay? Then one day, my boss came and said, look, Ignacio, today you don't control expenses. You are going to do the sales and the margin. And then one day he came and told, now you have the full P&L. Okay? Then after some years he told me, the balance sheet. It's not only the P&L, it's the balance sheet. And then suddenly you are sitting with investors, with shareholders, and with CEOs, and you don't look the P&L or the balance sheet.
They look for ROI.
You only look the cash flow.
Yeah, and ROI.
And ROI. Okay, so as I said, everything is a journey, okay? When we talk about the question you mentioned, Mohamed, for me, yes, cash is king. Huh? Thank you. I don't know, Amit, if you want to
if
be...
you have any comment or statement.
Yeah. I have a different take on this, right? Now, the question was basically how do we deal capital allocation investments during these uncertain times, right? I don't know when you guys have seen certain times. For me, it has always been uncertain times. I've been in the industry for 25 years, and it's always been uncertain times, right? We have seen COVID. Nobody expected COVID. It was highly uncertain times, but we survived that. After COVID, what happened? We never expected this, right? The cost of the supply chain went up off the roof. The shipping costs, the logistics cost. During COVID, people fired left, right, center, right? They reduced their operations, and suddenly you had a requirement of 1,000 people in 6 months' time. You have to market them, right? Then the war happened, Ukraine war. After that, the other war happened in the Middle East, right? So these uncertain times are going to remain. My take is, uncertainty is the new certainty. We have to live with it. We have to be ready for it. There are ideas to how to accommodate that. In my opinion, there are Ignacio, my experienced co-panelist, had already said whatever was required. But my take is very simple on this. Be agile, try to predict, see what's going on in the news, how it is going to affect your business particularly, because every business, every geopolitical things, or even yesterday's change in Fed rate, it affects everyone differently. For some, it's benefit. For some, it's a risk. So we need to be agile with our businesses. We need to look at what are the key drivers, and any of the events which are happening in these uncertain times, which are always uncertain, is to look at how we are going to address this, how it's going to impact me, what can I do to improve it, how I can take a benefit out of it instead of looking only at the challenges out of it.
Amit, to continue what you are saying regarding cash is king and how we need to invest it, today if we have, what are the new areas of investment within your experience, within the same company or the last few years, you are focusing? Is it on digital expansion, sustainability, regional diversification? Also, Ignacio mentioned Egypt, KSA, which is the emerging countries. So, the floor is yours.
So, before I answer the question, I will give you a brief background of what we do at Alfaris, right? I'm not sure how many of you know Alfaris Group. We are the largest equipment rental company in the Middle East. I think by 10th world's largest crane rental company. We also do heavy transportation, heavy lifting. We also do energy, which is primarily gas generators and fuel generators and temporary energy providers. So this is what we primarily do at Alfaris. Now, thankfully to the current market conditions and all, we are doing extremely well because there's so many projects happening in Middle East, right? So the business is very good. We are making quite a lot of money. So we have the liberty now to invest in all the three segments that you mentioned, right? We are going through a digital transformation phase. I joined the company 6 months back, but before that also I was doing equipment rental, cranes, energy, logistics, the same similar things. But this time I have an opportunity to invest all across. We are going through digital transformations. We are doing a new ERP implementations altogether. We do have an ERP, but now we are looking at a full-fledged ERP solutions which will integrate all across the business, including the operations, sales, the support functions and everything. We are also doing, we have just implemented WMS system. We are implementing fuel systems, fuel management systems. So we are doing our digital transformations all across. We are also doing telematics. So we are putting in investments in our vehicles all along so that we can do a remote monitoring. On the energy side, it's always been challenging for us to look at the maintenance of the generators which are at the client side, especially in Saudi Arabia, which is huge. Our generators go for 700, 800 kilometers away. And for preventive maintenance or any kind of maintenance activity, the guys have to travel 1 day going and 1 day coming. Once they go 1 day, then they go there and realize, okay, I need this spare parts and I didn't bring these spare parts. So now we're putting a telematic system into that, a remote control, remote monitoring system, which tells us beforehand, sitting in our office, it tells us what's gone wrong with the generators. And then our guys go for maintenance, but some of the maintenance can be done off-site itself. But some of the maintenance require physical presence. But when they go with the spare parts.
So it's like connected products
It's
that
connected
gives
products.
signals by Wi-Fi or 5G
Yes.
to tell you what's going on in the generator.
Yes.
In the offshore generator.
Yes. Not offshore.
Onshore.
Yeah, onshore, offshore as well.
Yeah.
They're offshore as well. So we are investing in all these spheres, and these are reducing cost, though it's a one-time investment, but then it reduces cost on a longer-term perspective, right? Now,
So if I take a summary, we can go for regional diversification, but we need to be maybe more smarter by using some tools that let us expand faster than just putting a capex in the country X or country Y.
absolutely, absolutely. So whenever you are expanding outside, right, I mean, you still need to control these things. You can't have a country like Saudi Arabia, and I mean, how many places can you start? You can start in 2-3 locations. You cannot go all across the country. But when your products are going all across the country, you need to use the systems now, the technology now, to get rich there, to control, to monitor, to prevent, to give enough services to the clients which is satisfactory to them, or even exceed their expectations.
Okay. So it goes in parallel, digital expansion or digital tools and geographical expansion should be going both together. If I go to you, Ignacio, since you mentioned investors and you're on the board, so almost same question, but from investor point of view, disregarding the ROI or the cash flow that they are focusing on. So where are their priorities right now? Is it in environmental, social governance that we hear about it on the media, but is it also in the closed doors running the same? Is it about digital transformation or, as we said, regional diversification?
Look, thank you, Mohammed, and I'm going to be extremely honest on the answer to this question, okay? And maybe during the Q&A we can enrich through the audience also my answer, okay? As I mentioned, is a journey. So within part of my career, of course, and I'm sure many of you or many of you are much more advanced than me, I'm starting to get exposure to board of directors because we need to report or because our network, of course, is expanding and it's the natural journey of our career, okay? Through my roles or through my network that I belong, where I start to touch into board members, okay? What I see more and more is the board at the end is protecting the interest of the shareholders. So what they are looking for is security that the money is correctly invested, okay? What I find so far, and I like it very much, the presentation that was before on regarding ESG, I don't know, I'm sorry because I don't recall the name, I think it was sitting, Matthew,
yeah.
So I think he left, he was sitting there. Huh? So I think he touched base on many things that a board definitely is requiring. That is basically to have enough transparency. Of course, a board does not need to go into the details. And then to have security that the things are properly done in the company. And again, it's a journey, okay? The early stage maturity level will go a lot into the importance of audit. So in certain companies where the maturity is still not at the highest level, the audit committee, the role of the board members that represent finance, investments, and audit is very, very, very relevant, okay? As we evolve on the journey of the companies, we'll see more boards where the decisions are going to be, or the members are members that can influence a lot the growth, the strategic journey, or the business relationships, both with markets or governments of the company, okay? And then we see more and more boards now, especially in this region of the world. If we go to Europe, I think the maturity level is higher than here. We were talking yesterday during this kind of alignments of gender equality.
Yeah, true.
Okay, I know that is one of your favorite topics. If we look gender equality in this room,
it's not so high, yeah.
I don't think we can be very proud. Okay, and I'm looking the lady that...
Yeah, quality should be, it's true.
Okay.
If you look at multinational...
I think it's up to us also to support this agenda, okay? If we go into ESG, are we really, I mean, my previous company, it's 3 years that this is ongoing. But there are companies that they didn't heard about these words yet. Okay? So I think that the role of the board is to support the development of the organizations, but more important, to protect the assets of the shareholders. Huh?
Okay. Sorry. So the board, okay, of course, it's always good to spend on ESG, gender equality, but are they pushing now in our area for geographical expansion, which is more, yeah? Or for more digitalization? Today, if you have 100K, where are you going to spend it as investor? What they tell you?
So if I can take that question, right? I believe sustainability, we should not look at it as an expense item. The problem with most of us as the finance people, we see sustainability as an expense line item, that we will have to do this, and therefore my expense will increase. The way I would recommend you to all of you to look at it as an opportunity. That is what we are trying to do at Alfaris as well. Now we are into the business which used to emit, or which still emits quite a large amount of, we use fuel, so emission is quite high in all our businesses. But we are exploring new possibilities. Most recently, we have done a very successful prototype. We have combined our diesel generators with solar power and battery at one of the oil wells at ADNOC, which has given us a saving of 60% of the fuel. So solar power combined with battery and fuel is giving me 60% reductions. The prototype has been successful, has been proven. Now we have just bid for 30 wells to be done on the same model.
This is in your location.
This is the UAE locations, right?
But what's for the customer? Because you are selling also onshore and offshore generators, right?
Yes, no, we don't sell, we rent. Right?
We rent, okay.
But
so how you are, today also it's important as per of ESG, the CO emission. So you are doing it in your site, which is perfect. But how you are helping this, you said you are the biggest so
it is
lender.
eventually helping the client, because the 60% reduction in the fuel cost is significant. The operations is 24/7.
But if I'm renting a generator from you, how you can help me to reduce also the fuel cost?
That is what I'm explaining it to you. So what we have done is we have come up with a product which is generator combined with solar and combined with battery.
Okay.
So when you are using it for 24/7 operations, it reduces your fuel cost by 60%.
Ah, okay, great.
So it's the client who's benefiting from it.
Nowadays, there are also like hybrid between electrical and
the cars.
Actually, it's black diesel, right? Not green diesel.
Yeah, the cars, yes, but industrial use is very, very little.
And even there is some innovation about ethanol, if I'm not mistaken, but it needs larger reserves.
Correct.
So are you investing in this technology? Do you have R&D here, or just taking the technology from outside and implement it to your customers?
So what we are trying to do is, we don't have an R&D in place at our place, and I don't think we have the ability to do the R&D. What we go and do is basically we look for people who can provide these kind of solutions, right? We go for people who have solar, who have battery, and we combine our efforts with them together to come up with these solutions. Some of the places clients were not even asking for it. We went and provided. For example, this case, I'd never asked for it. We went with this solution that this kind of experiment, let's test this, is it possible? And it was hugely successful, right? So we are also looking at now, we have got electric cars, which we are using, but we are into heavy logistics. Heavy logistics, there are not enough electric vehicles to be done, because it requires quite a huge amount of power, and it's a long haul usually. But we are still testing with electric trucks, right? We are one of the first ones, I think we are the first ones in UAE to have a small fleet of electric trucks, which we are using for small locations to go. So we are trying that. We have started using electric forklifts. So we are trying and moving into that directions, but the technology has to catch up in our segment as well.
And the payback should be reasonable, right? The investment of the payback of the investment should be a little bit reasonable. So it's good to be in ESG, but it's not easy to balance between, there is thin layer between balancing on ESG and spending more than you have to.
So you have to find the right opportunities of investments. I'll give you another example. So what we have done is we have about 200,000 square meter of yard in Dubai Industrial City. This yard we created about 5 years back, right? We developed it 5 years back. Our yard is fully solar operated, but we didn't invest a dime. We invested zero in it.
In AI,
No, in the solar,
in the solar.
right? So what happened is we had investors, the solar guys coming to us and saying, we will put in for you, you keep on paying us whatever you electricity bill you would pay us, keep us paying for next 10, 15 years.
Okay.
So they invested in our yard, our entire roof is solar, we are net negative on power consumptions.
Bravo. So we have to tell our colleagues here that we need to invest in more high technology solar.
You don't need to invest, you need to find somebody who invests for you.
Okay. So Ignacio, if we move to you, thank you, Amit, of course. If we move to you, how are geopolitical shifts and regulations changes and regional policy shaping the access to capital and investment opportunities? Today we can see the central banks are running to change their policies and procedures, regulations, e-invoicing we spoke about a few slots back, and in the coming few years we are going for digital 100%. So how it's impacting the investment opportunities?
Yes, I think this is a very trendy topic nowadays. Okay, I mean, I'm sure all of you received the publications of PwC, KPMGs, and so on in your inbox. So I think that first of all, it's important to understand in which sector you operate. Okay, and of course which kind of business you do. Okay, so at least in my experience, again, who is the supplier of my raw materials? Where are these raw materials coming from? Which are the jurisdictions where my legal entities are operated? Which are the countries and where I am operating or where I want to expand? We're talking about the localization strategies of different countries and regions, the impact of the governments, okay? And even in this part of the world, I see more and more, I'm learning, it's 4 years that I'm here in this country, all the different strategies that the sovereign funds are following. And for me, these are important factors to be considered. When we talk about UAE, I think on one part, I like to say maybe we're in the safest country in the world. Okay, it's a country that gets along with everyone. Okay, so making business here is relatively easy. Okay, there is also the correct mindset on putting in place initiatives and ideas. One of the things that I'm curious about is the balance between short-term projects. So basically I always say copy-paste existing ideas that are already in US or in Europe and bring it here versus investing in R&D. Okay, so this is also something that from a regulatory point of view, I think that is an advice or a comment that I would like to do in this region of the world. I always say they prefer to invest in Lamborghinis that you can touch other than R&D projects that will have benefit in 10 years for the cure of cancer. Okay? I know it's a very provocative comment, but it's the experience I'm having. So all these regulatory and long-term visions I think are important. The other topic is, of course, we're in a region where tax is something very new. Okay? So we're entering now into new environments related to corporate tax, okay? On the other hand, is a country where you can also put in place different structures to continue protecting the wealth and the assets of the organizations, okay? So the creation of foundations, the creation of entities, free zones versus mainlands, okay? And then, of course, what does it mean also? I think that trading of products and supply chains are very relevant. I don't know how many of you are directly involved under finance with supply chain. Okay, so I've been in roles where supply chain has been directly reporting to me, or organizations where supply chain was reporting directly to the CEO, no? When we talk about our role as a finance associates. But definitely supply chain is something that is highly impacted nowadays, but all the topic related to tariffs, related to the US, China, Russia, paradigm, and geopolitical shifts, okay? So having a proper risk assessment of the logistic mapping, where are your products coming from, where are the tariffs, where are the raw materials, I think is something that we need to have in mind as a CFOs from a risk management point of view. Huh?
If I can just add to it, right? I mean, this regulatory changes which has happened in the recent past in the Middle East, whether it's Saudi or UAE, I'm sure it has improved and increased the worth of each of us, right? I'm not sure about the salaries, but yes, finance function has become very important now, right? The same finance functions, the CFOs were not given their due credit earlier. Now it's extremely important for business to consider the roles of the CFOs and the finance functions, right? Yeah. I mean, I don't hear any noise. People don't agree with that. Yeah. So it has given a lot of importance and criticality. Now people hear us. The investors hear us, the board hears us, the CEOs, the operations, the businesses are hearing us. Absolutely. So it has increased the value of all of us, right? So yeah, that's all I like to know.
We will come to you in the Q&A, first one. Yeah, you are right. Okay, so...
I have other opinions on that, Amit, but I think it's not for here. Maybe in the coffee machine we talk.
Okay, so just the last question, because we don't want to park it for long.
Because I have a private equity background, just to add on that, how it has affected the investor's perspective as well. In the past, the international private equity players were very hesitant to come to Middle East. They didn't want to. I have been part of the private equity and I have been part of the portfolio companies where we had tried to raise funds. The international private equity players would come and listen to our presentations, would look at our mandate books, PPMs, go through everything, have meetings and all, and then they never invested. That is changing now. Why? Because with all the new regulations coming in, there's a lot of transparencies. There's a lot of AML, sanctions list checks, there is corporate tax in there. So there is a lot of transparency and the way we do our reporting and audited financials and all. The quality of that has improved immensely and it is going to improve in future furthermore. So now the private equity players, international private equity players are coming in. We know the failure of Abraj, right? Everybody knows about the failure of Abraj. That was the largest private equity in the Middle East, but they failed. Key reasons, governance. Right? So all these are improving now and therefore the investors are looking at it very positively towards the entire Middle East. Brookfield has recently done quite a lot of investments in the Middle East. So I think this is changing the entire dynamics of the investors when it comes to investments in the Middle East per se.
It's good to know this because actually you read my mind, because my question for both of you and maybe for Ignacio, since his company is publicly listed, today if you check the CAGR or the ROI of the last 5 years of any stock, you will find out that if you are an S&P 500 in US, you will be having 100% maybe growth in the last 5 years. If you go to Europe, maybe 70, Japan 60, China 40, 45. But when we go to our area, it's barely 30% or 35% in the last 5 years, average, okay, for the top 500 companies. So how you are influencing these investors to put $1 in our area? We are still a little bit behind in the governance and in the restrictions and regulations versus a $1 somewhere else who can get them more ROI.
Thank you, Mohamed. I think that the discussion is evolving into a very, very interesting topic. I think we are starting to put the word of governance now in this debate. I think that for me, governance is one of the points where any board member or investor is going to look at. Okay, who is involved in implementing governance strategy in your company? Can you raise your hand? Good. I think this is one of the, in my opinion, one of the most complex topics of a corporation, okay? And it's basically, I strongly believe finance needs to play a very important role here, okay? It's a topic that I believe, if we compare with companies in US or in Europe, there is still a long journey here in Middle East. But when I look what institutions like ADX are putting in place, I think the steps are being done in the correct direction. and by the way, very fast.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay? At the end, we should not forget that all of this has been created in 50 years.
And the opportunities in our area with the population growth is massive.
Correct. Okay? Now, how do we secure, and it connects a bit with the first question you made, Mohamed, how do we secure that we give confidence to our investors? That when they have $1, they will put it on you and not in another. Okay? Governance plays a fundamental role. Governance is about how the decisions are being taken in the organizations, okay? How transparent the decisions are, how is the decision-making process, authorization levels, strategy, returns on investments are behind every single decision that is being taken, okay? I mean, this would open a completely new chapter of a panel, okay? But at the end is, what is the executive committee that the company has? Is this executive committee created by the correct people in the correct role? How many of you have companies where HR depends on finance, but finance does not have yet the proper capabilities to run HR? Okay? Or we have an interim commercial head that does market access, but we don't talk about conflict of interest. Okay? How many of you have a properly equipped internal audit function or legal department? Okay? All of this is part of the operational agenda of the executive committee. How this executive committee, through the CEO, reports to the board, who is led by the chairman. What are the committees that the board needs to be attend as part of the governance of the organization to ensure that at the different committees, the decisions are properly taken. Okay?
Very clear.
So I think that, again, this would open a completely new chapter, but this is where at the end, a board member or a shareholder will decide also where to invest.
Of course. Right? We believe we are on the right track. It's about timing, and this area will be shining. It's already shining, by the way, but it will shine more and more in the coming few years, and not for long, as you said, because the acceleration of the regulations, governance, investing is numerous, and we are seeing too many people, their dream to come and work and live in these countries around us, including, of course, UAE. So we are in the right place, but we need to keep working on ourselves to make it happen. So I need to move to Q&A. Just one statement.
So just
I
one
should be now.
Just to add to what you and Ignacio said, right? Middle East is going through a boom. Saudi is going to be the biggest driver of the market. UAE is expanding. We have got mega projects, giga projects coming in. There are huge investments happening. So the region is going to boom. The only question in the mind of the investors is it secure, sustainable? Will I get my money returned back or not? And that all relates to transparency and governance. The business is there, the opportunity is there. All we need to do is prove it to them that we are a fair market. We take care of the investors. We are one who shares the benefits with all the stakeholders and improve the transparency and governance. That is the key.
Which is part of our job as CFOs.
Exactly.
Okay, so we move to the Q&A. Sorry, it took a little bit longer, but you would like to start here or not? Yeah, next.
Thank you all panelists for your excellent deliberations on the capital allocations. My question is to Ignacio, is in the current market scenario in GCC in particular, from the corporate development side, do we think to build strategy or buy strategy, and why we should think in that way from the M&A and the corporate development perspective?
So, if I understand correctly, the question is if maybe separate a bit the mic from the mouth.
So my question is, from a corporate expansion perspective and capital allocation perspective, do I acquire a company or do I build a company into?
Is it easier?
Organic
in the current
set,
in the current
organic or inorganic? Yeah, that's a primary question.
It depends on how much money you have.
I would say I would say it's make or buy, of course. I think it's a good question, of course. I can talk again about experience, okay? And I will relate to, I've been 25 years in pharmaceutical industry, okay? Now just recently moved into Takif, where we are distributing air conditioning equipment for the region. This question you are raising, your name, sorry again?
My name is Kunjan. I am heading the finance as Director Corporate Finance for a logistics firms based out of Dubai.
Thank you, Kunjan. So I think that we were confronted in many situations, and even more recently, and I can disclose because this has been publicly communicated, okay? With the case, I will put the example of Saudi, okay? So in the pharmaceutical sector, for those, I don't know if anyone in the pharma, there is, of course, a very important strategy in some countries, especially Saudi, for localization. So basically, if you want to have a competitive advantage, better you have your manufacturing plant in Saudi, okay? So for us that we were at that time a UAE company, the question came into the plate, no? Do I build a greenfield facility, okay? Or do I search the market? I know that there are multinationals that are exiting Saudi, and I can take advantage and build my own manufacturing plant. Take advantage of an already existing manufacturing plant, okay? So I think there is no black and white, okay? The decision was taken, of course, based on MPVs. As I mentioned before, the third step is the evaluation of your projects and what is going to be the return on investment and the MPV. But of course, it's not only pure number driven, it's a speed to market, it's penetration, is market share gain because you accelerate timings, okay? So at the end, again, finance will play a very important role, okay? And in this case, was very, very important to assess the as-is, the greenfield, the acquisition, and then based on that, take the decision, okay? I know I'm not answering your question, sorry for that, okay? But I'm just sharing the experience, and at the end, we went for building our own manufacturing plant because it was, at that point in time, easier to put our technology in that investment.
Okay, we'll take only one question because time is up. So we promised you to take your question live and we move on.
As such, I don't have any such question, but as we're talking about the investment, see, as per my perception, the investment can be factored by many scenarios like exchange. In my company, I have seen a lot of investors are looking like we are doing in euro. And now the USD is going at 1.18. So investors are worried about why we are paying higher, USD is getting weaker, why we go for not euro. So we start investing in instead of in European Union, instead of investing in UAE because UAE currency is pegged with euro. So that is the scenario the investor are also looking. If you are talking about the RO given by UAE is 30-40%. If you go to India, even GDP is 9%. They are also giving a good ROI because the currency is not pegged. Even it is getting weaker because of the dollar. So if the dollar dominance will be over, then might be the Indian will be a good area to be invest. Might be a UAE get be de-dollarized. Then might be UAE will. I think exchange is the main impact right now. Investor is worried about right now. As per my understanding, I have seen with many investors coming, they are saying exchange might be and you are depending on totally of USA. US is increasing tariff or something. Is that dollar dominance is there. So that's why I want to say on this.
As we said, there's no black or white. So, okay, thank you for today. Thank you all.
Thank you.